Welcome back to another fun-filled show. I'm your host, he is Blanchard, aka Free Blanche, aka Blanche Stradamus, aka Blanchy Kruger, and today's title is the Julio Foolio Trial Breakdown, Part 1. This would be Part 1 of the Julio Foolio Breakdown. So Julio Foolio was a rapper. He was killed back in June of 2024. But the trial, in my opinion, highlights everything I talk about when I talk about Black culture. And the trial was very, it was actually great. It was awesome just to see how the detectives pieced everything together, how the state put their case together. It was actually a masterful job to see how much detail went into solving this murder. They had a whole bunch of evidence that was physical evidence, and then they had a whole bunch of evidence from social media, and they were able to put them together. I just want to say that if you all plan on committing a crime, don't do it, because there are cameras everywhere. Everything is recording everywhere. So to try to do a crime now is ridiculous because you're being watched constantly. Anyway, so I'm gonna jump right into it. What's up, me mom? What's up, Nikki? What's up, Tierra? I'm gonna just jump right into it. The state, well, you know what? Let me go to this guy first, and then I'll start with the actual video. Let me go with him first. Let me do something real quick. Let me share this screen real quick. So this guy right here, this is Sean Gathright. He's the one that's going viral. He's the one that had you're going to hear how great his life was and what he chose to do. He was involved in a shooting when he went to go visit his grandmother in Mississippi. I think he even went to high school in Mississippi. As one guy said on social media, he went to high school in Mississippi. So he was involved in a shooting there. He got off. He was involved in another shooting in Jacksonville. He was involved in the shooting of Julio Foolio the first time, and obviously this last time. So realistically, he's been involved in 4 shootings, and this kid has literally had the best life that any kid could ask for. But let's just watch him. This is when he gets caught. He gets caught in the car with his grandmother, his mother, his sister. They all get caught in the car, and he has all this ammunition and stuff in the car, which is crazy because he took everything from the kill hit, took everything from that, the assassination, and transferred everything into the Forerunner. And then they're driving around town, and the police pull them over with all that stuff in the car. And then some of those ballistics were linked to the previous shooting of Julio back in October of 2023. But here, this is when he's caught. He's finally about to face consequences. He notices it's serious. So I want you to see his range of emotions. This is when reality sets in.
Fuck up. Shit.
You see him taking his ankle monitor off. He's taking it off. pay attention to how he puts himself like he's in timeout. And clearly he's not built for this life, but you see he puts himself like he's in timeout. You know, forehead pressed against the wall. Again, this is a very, people keep using the word privilege. I don't like that word because privilege denotes that it's a negative connotation. He had parents and grandparents that loved him. So he had a great childhood. He had people that loved him. So I don't want to call it privilege because privilege denotes that he's gotten something he didn't deserve or something that he took advantage of somebody else to get. You know the whole privilege narrative. So I'm just gonna say he had people that loved him, and he threw it all away. But this is him putting himself in timeout in this interrogation room. Now, this is back when he was 18. So at this point, he has graduated from high school and he's a freshman at a junior college. So he's actually a freshman in junior college. About to be a sophomore.
Let me out, bro. Let me out, bro. Bro, let me out, bro. Let me out.
He's trying to go through the tiling and the ceiling. He's trying to escape because he knows it's over.
Sit in that chair and don't leave.
So he's the main guy of this case. He was actually the youngest. I have these guys' ages real quick. Let me look at their ages real quick. Hold on. Their current ages now. Their current ages are Rashad is 32. Rashad Murphy, 32. Davion, 29. Isaiah Chance, 23. And Sean Gathright, 20. So let's go to, anybody got any questions before I jump into this? I try to give you all a briefing of what's to come. But anybody got any questions? If not, I can just proceed forward. Okay. Let me go to, let me see.
Mr. Gathright put two 5.56 round NATO bullets into Charles Jones' body. This is enough premeditation to convict 1,000 people of first-degree premeditated murder. Talk about cold-blooded. They're talking to him about a murder, and he's in there throwing gang signs when they leave him alone. He's described as calm, well-mannered, and non-confrontational. Well, he was certainly calm when he was loading that Impala, and he was calm when he was executing this murder along with his co-conspirators.
Shout out to Cuff Boys. This is Cuff Boys right here. Excellent content and commentary on this case. Please follow Cuff Boys because he did an excellent, it's just excellent breakdown. So like you can just take his stuff and just run with it. Anyway, but this is Cuff Boys channel, so shout out to Cuff Boys.
Calm to the point of ice water in his veins with that type of accuracy he was displaying with that rifle. We've heard enough. This is well beyond a reasonable doubt. When is it going to end? When is this evidence going to end? It just keeps coming. And
This guy's bragging.
that you sentence each of them to death, knowing that it is the just and it is the right sentence in this case.
In day 4 of the penalty phase in the Foolio murder trial, the death penalty specialist Scott Harmon puts the nail in the coffin. Scott Harmon goes through all the mitigation factors the defense presented and argues why they don't outweigh the aggravating factors. This guy is so good at his job. It is very dark the way he words everything. Hit subscribe, let's go.
They sit over here and they are convicted because last week, 12 of you went back there and you came back with a just and a true verdict, convicting them. And they sit there in their guilt. They are convicted. Convicted conspirators, convicted killers. They are convicted murderers. There is no doubt about that. What this is about is an entirely different thing. What you're here to decide today and going into tomorrow is what is the appropriate sentence for these defendants. A planning and acting as a team in a concerted effort with one common goal: murder, the most evil and the most wicked crime that there is, the taking of another human life. I doubt any of you had any issue back there determining when you were deliberating that this was a premeditated crime. You would not have convicted them of conspiracy because you can't conspire. You can't have 4 people conspiring without premeditation. Was there premeditation in this case? Yes, but there was much, much more than just simple premeditation. These defendants in this case did this for over 2 weeks at least, making decisions, solving problems, working through their plan. This is much more than simple premeditation. These 4 defendants, by June 6th, the evidence tells us, had already planned, had already conspired, were already teaming up to snatch Charles Jones' life from him. The X Spaces discussion that was going on between Isaiah Chance.
I'm going to be shaking my head this whole video. Like, it's all so stupid what they did, bro.
And what happens after that communication between them? Sean Gathrigh's phone has communication from his co-defendant Rashad Murphy's phone at approximately 11:18 hours. And shortly after that recording was obtained by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office at 22:36 hours. Isaiah Chance arguing with Charles Jones. You remember his words. Hey, Julio, how's your foot doing? Make sure, this is out of Rashad Murphy's mouth. Make sure, brah, in a good headspace.
If you're new to my channel, hit subscribe right now. I upload constantly. Back to video, guys.
Before he go with his move, we got bigger shit to tend to. They ain't worth an inward energy right now. That's directed at who? That's directed at his teammate. And what does Mr. Gathright do? 17 days before this murder happens, he likes that. He likes it. And then he replies, I ain't heard from bro today, but I'm going to check in with him. And then Rashad Murphy texts back, he's probably not going to pick up. He on IG letting these N-words get him out of character. He turned up on that MF right now. And then Mr. Gathright, damn, all right, let me see what's up. So what does that tell us? That tells us that the plan was already in place.
That is what the evidence says. They were already planning at this point. Everything was in motion.
Remember what I said, that they had a lot of physical evidence, but also social media evidence. So the way what they did was they coordinated all the social media evidence with the physical evidence, so there weren't any gaps. So the reason why this was such a interesting case was because every gap was pretty much filled in, because if they didn't get it in real life, they got it from social media. If they didn't give it social media, they got it from real life. And so these young men were conspiring to kill Julio Foolio. Like I said before, they'd already been trying to kill him before. I think Julio got shot in Houston, I think, before by somebody. I don't know who that was, but then he got shot in October in the foot by, they believe to be Sean Gathright. Julio says in the song that I saw my killer's face. I think he was talking about Sean Gathright. And he asked him, how's your foot? And so Sean Gathright is the kid from the suburbs. He's the kid that grew up very well. He's the kid that, had everything he wanted, went to private school. He's all of these things. But you're going to find that he's also the most dangerous because, again, he's trying to prove that he belongs in the culture. And you're going to see a common theme in this trial of them trying to say that these young black men were didn't have a good father figure. These young black men didn't have a good father figure. So they just got sentenced actually today. But I'm gonna play this right now to catch you all up before we go to the sentencing. But I just want to say that this case, the defense's position was that these are young black men growing up without a father in the inner city. That was what they were hanging their hat on. And so again, this is another tragic tale in black culture. This is what the culture does. This is the culture. I don't know if you all watched last night, but on Black, we went through what the former warden of a prison in Florida said about, sweat equity and, using they have an aging prison population and black folks are crashing out, but they're not crashing out about this. Like these guys murdered somebody and y'all are worried about the warden saying they're going to get sweat equity out of a person. It's insane. I don't know if you all saw it last night. I can play it again, but I'll just continue with this.
More than 17 days before. This plan had been birthed, hatched, and formulated before June 6th. Before June 6th. They were going to take out 6, and they were going to take out whoever might be there that might be in 6.
So 6 is... So it's 2 areas. It's the 12 and it's the 6. When they talk about 6 is referring to Julio Foolio. So they call him 6. That's what they refer to him as, 6.
Because why not? And anyone else standing around, anyone else that might get in the way, well, it's just collateral damage. Why is the state going back through the facts with you? Because in the aggravating factors that you're going to be instructed on in this case, we are relying on that evidence. We are relying, as you saw, solely on our evidence from the guilt phase of this trial. Now, we did present some evidence. That evidence goes to rebut their suggestions of mental health mitigation, which you have seen have completely been rebutted.
They tried that too. They tried to say that 3 of the young men had learning disabilities and mental health issues. Listen, they tried everything to get these guys to not get first-degree murder. That was their goal, to get them not get the first-degree murder. Then it was to get them to not get the death penalty. So these were the goals. But they tried everything for these young black men. They tried all the stereotypes, they tried it all. They brought in expert witnesses, doctors, psychologists. They put out the whole kitchen sink for these young black men simply because they were young black men. That's the only reason. I'm just telling you.
Brain scan testimony where the dude said, "You're completely wrong," to the defense lawyer was rough.
It is because of the extremely heightened level of premeditation in this case that the state, is presenting you with the aggravating factor, one that the law speaks to, of very cold-blooded murders. The aggravating factor of cold, calculated, and premeditated, that this murder was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral justification. That is the aggravating factor. Mr. Murphy with his fully automatic Glock. It's very rare, folks, that an execution is caught on video like this.
Rashad with the Glock switch, Sean Gathright with the AR.
Look at the teamwork. Look at the precision. Look at the efficiency.
Davion up there.
That evidence alone, standing alone, without the X spaces evidence, without the Airbnb evidence of no one going through the front door, without all the other evidence, the evidence of Mr. Chance and Mr. Gathright.
I just jump scared y'all with David. I got pictures.
Coolly, calmly, businesslike, loading up that Impala. Without any of that evidence, you could look at this alone and your common sense would be screaming at you that this is the product, this type of murder, it's the product of heightened premeditation. That doesn't happen without conspiratorial premeditation, planning, wearing disguises to cover their identities. And not just disguises, folks. They're wearing all black to hide in the darkness, to hide their skin, to hide their faces, They're wearing hoodies. These are disguises. These are items that they brought with them as part of this plan. This alone, this evidence in the efficiency, the positioning, demonstrates the premeditation and the planning that went into this. And this evidence alone would be sufficient evidence beyond any doubt that this was a product of heightened, cold, calculated, premeditation. This is a fully formed, committed mission that they are on that is immediately executed. As soon as the opportunity presents itself, they come out of the shadows where they're hiding. And we saw Mr. Davion Murphy, who snuck down behind those cars. And you heard me asking these forensic experts, isn't that significant that he did that? That he had the mindset and cognitive ability to hide behind the cars to avoid being detected by a very wary victim, someone who had his life almost taken 9 months before in an attempted murder that Mr. Gathright is connected to by physical scientific evidence. A very wary prey.
That's a people. There's no way you can feel bad for Sean. Like, he spun the block. He shot Foolio twice, once in the foot, then 9 months later, and he's connected to another unrelated murder, and he was in a shooting in Mississippi. Like, you can't feel bad for Sean, bro.
How Mr. Gathright continued in a persistent fashion, chasing after the Charger, pumping rounds into it. And then we didn't even get to following down behind the cars and unloading down the west side of the hotel. So this is the aggravator. The first degree murder was committed.
So so this will make sense. So there was a video I saw of Foolio talking to another. I would say there's a guy named Young and Ace. He's from the rival gang. They're both rappers. And Young and Ace was telling him that he was voodoo. And so these guys believed that Foolio practiced voodoo, and that's why he was protected. So this is why they took these extreme measures to try to kill him, because they thought he was protected by voodoo. This is why you see them going above and beyond to make sure he's dead, because people have been trying to kill him for years and they haven't been successful. Like I said, I think he got shot in Houston. He got shot at, survived. Like, he's been shot a lot of times and he survived. The last time he got shot in the foot. But my point is that when Young and Ace was saying voodoo, I was like, okay, it makes sense to why they were so intent on trying to kill him, especially on his birthday. The goal was to kill him on his birthday. And I believe that Julio Foolio, honestly, he was ready to die anyway, because he leaked his location. He put it on social media. Like, think about it. If you know that people want to kill you, why would you put your location up on social media? Because you know, and the people that he was with weren't gang members. He was with actual childhood friends. That's another thing. He wasn't with gang members. He was with his actual friends from child. Like, they weren't like armed. He was with regular people. But so that's why they went so hard on trying to kill him. And you'll see from the video footage, they were trying, like, it was just, they tried to make sure he was dead. And so to get around premeditation, they try to say that these guys are basically too dumb. They couldn't say that about Sean Gathright, but they said about the other three. So they tried to say that this couldn't have been premeditated because they weren't smart enough to, they were not smart enough to plan this kind of murder. So they want you to believe it was like spur of the moment, but social media says otherwise. And don't be surprised if a RICO case comes after this on the 12 side, 1200 block, I think 1200 block, or whatever, that side. There's going to be a RICO case coming because there's so much evidence linking all of this to them over there too. People dropping videos when he dies, talking about the hit and saying I paid for the hit. It's ridiculous. But I believe a RICO is coming.
In a cold, calculated, premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. Cold means the murder was the product. Calm and cool reflection. Calculated means having a careful plan, a plan that is carefully constructed.
He's going through all the aggravating factors.
So what does this mean? It simply means that there is no claim of justification or excuse, even if it was insufficient to reduce the degree of the murder, that it would rebut the otherwise cold, calculated, or premeditated nature of this murder. Folks, there is no way to rebut the premeditated nature of this murder. There's just simply no way. There's way too much evidence of it. It is part of this. It's part and parcel of what we watched on that video. You cannot separate the two. To commit that type of crime would be impossible on the spur of the moment. That crime doesn't just speak of a lack of impulsivity. Remember hearing that term earlier in the last day or two? It doesn't just speak of a lack of impulsivity. It screams that this was extremely planned, that this was a designed mission. Just
Sorry, bro. You gotta look like you care a little bit when the jury's deciding if you're gonna get the death penalty.
investigative efforts, of the Tampa Police Department and the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in this case. Mr. Murphy obtains the Chevy Cruze, the silver Chevy Cruze. That's his first part of the contribution to this case. The car that's utilized as surveillance and as a spotter car, a car that's outside of the circle. Then Mr. Murphy on his Airbnb account, sending his ID and reserving that Airbnb. And now we see the teamwork coming in. Right around the same time, within minutes, you remember in the evidence, Isaiah Chance receiving a $390 payment from another gang member, an ATK gang member, J. Breezy, sent to his Mr. Rich Off War Cash App. And that payment is made to Airbnb. It's paid.
Just like I said in the past, I'd be terrified of a RICO if I was these guys, man.
Now, keep in mind that J. Breezy dropped a video of a song after this, and he says that he paid for the murder. So you have that same guy, J. Breezy, a rapper, actually sending the money to Isaiah Chance. This is why I said, and Cuff Boy said it, Rico is coming, because they're going to be able to link this to them. So they already coordinated when Ace dropped his song after he was dead, and that guy J. Breeze dropped his song after he was dead. I'm just saying a Rico case is coming.
If the video of the murder itself doesn't establish how premeditated and planned, we need only look at this video, because even if you got rid of the X Spaces discussions and you didn't have the earlier in the morning paying of an Airbnb, and you have these two defendants, Mr. Gathright and Mr. Chance, business-like, look at them. Look at the confidence that Mr. Gathright carries with him. They could very well have been packing to go on a cruise or something, and they are packing up that Impala with high-powered rifles, with ammunition, with disguises, the tools they would need to carry out this mission. That's in the afternoon. That is hours, 20 hours or so before the murder happens. And then when they get to Tampa, and they have to drive, remember, because this conspiracy now is traveling from Jacksonville down here to Tampa. They have to travel for 3 hours to get down here. And they're coordinating. We saw that in the LPR, that both these cars are following and coordinating, again, showing advanced planning. But when they get here, we see this real-time demonstration of premeditation on the part of Mr. Gathright. Man, I want it myself. If I could, I would have had so many hoes there. I know somebody can get it from them. Get the B&B for me, gang. They're all trying to find the Airbnb. And then after the run to the McDonald's, they get provisions for this assault team.
Provisions, fueling up on some McDonald's, baby.
All have a dinner, a late night dinner, to make sure they got enough energy. They start coordinating. And remember in the evidence, by this point, these two defendants, Mr. Gathright and Mr. Chance, they've already gone down to teasers. They've already cased teasers. They've already checked it out to get the lay of the land. They start coordinating. Mr. Chance is not using his phone.
Now, ironically, I'm going to tell you how crazy this is. So, Isaiah Chance and Sean Gathright are best friends. Rashad Murphy and Davion Murphy are brothers. So it's funny how it's like it's a group of four, but they're split in two. So these and Isaiah Chance and Sean Gathright. Now Sean Gathright had the best life, but the second best life was Isaiah Chance. A lot of people that loved him, took care of him. He had a good life too. So it's natural that they would link up together because they had similar upbringings, both of them. And the other two, Rashad Murphy and Davion Murphy, obviously had similar upbringings, which weren't that good. But I'll take that back. Rashad Murphy, his family fought for him to get him out of foster care. He's in foster care for maybe 2 years or so, but his family fought to get him. So he was loved. Listen, these guys were loved. So they were loved. If they weren't loved by their actual parents, extended family loved them. They were loved. People wanted them to succeed in life.
Because he's going to use his girlfriend's phone. He doesn't want to use his phone. He doesn't want to be tracked, and he doesn't want to be connected. So they start sharing information. Mr. Gathright stores Ms. Andrews' phone's information and his phone in a contact. They start sharing locations with each other. Now we're up to 208. They're still communicating with each other, coordinating. We see the coordination. We see Mr. Chance and his contributions starting here in the actual pursuit and the stalking and the hunting of Charles Jones. He's at teasers. As Miss Doherty told you, he's wearing a hoodie. He's wearing a COVID mask. He's using his girlfriend as kind of a decoy or camouflage so that he's not standing around in the middle of the summer wearing a hoodie and a mask looking suspicious. It's just a young couple walking around in the parking lot. And they are there and they're observing Charles Jones and his friends as they're at teasers.
How crazy is it to be wearing a COVID mask in Tampa, Florida in June when you know it's hot and nobody thinks it's odd that he's wearing a COVID mask? You know why? Because black folks are still wearing the mask. So it's like he don't even stand out. It's being abnormal to have a mask on in the beginning of summer in Florida.
Still communicating. Now they're trying to get Gathright to pick up his phone, maybe trying to FaceTime him, which we learned in the evidence is not collected in CDRs, call detail records. And they're telling him, pick up your effing phone. More coordination through the time that Mr. Jones is leaving. And now he and his entourage have gone to Truth 18.
I feel like that's got to change one day, right? Where at some point, FaceTime records are going to have to be kept. It happened in the Weissel trial where apparently they were going on FaceTime before murdering someone. Well, actually, they were found not guilty of that, so I can't say that, but...
They're at Truth 18, and they're getting ready to leave from there, and more coordination. Because I know you all have concerns about Mr. Gathright. He was 18 years old. The state's never hid from that fact. Is that a mitigating factor? Absolutely, it's a mitigating factor. And it's up to each of you to decide how much weight you want to give that.
Yeah, they were saying that Sean Gathright was so young at the time, but as you can see, he's the one calling the shots because he has the most brains and the most sense. Combat Medic said, if I modify any weapon to fire in fully automatic mode, they would hide me in prison. But these guys can run around with these modified weapons and they put ankle monitors on them and send them back home. It's true. Like, think about it. This is Sean Gathright's fourth shooting he was involved in. Think about what I'm telling you. This was the fourth shooting he was involved in. And you're going to find how reckless he was in this shooting. Reckless on purpose. But like I said, this trial highlighted what I say about black culture and black privilege. They were trying everything to get these guys to not get that first degree murder charge and then to get these guys not get the death penalty.
But we need to look at what Mr. Gathright did, and we need to look at how he conducted himself in this early morning, well past loading that Impala. That's Mr. Gathright driving that Impala. And you remember, the assault team never would have been able to find that hotel if Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews hadn't have followed the victims, stayed just far enough behind and tailing them so they weren't detected, but able to see where they were going and relay that. Because Mr. Gathright, coordinating with his co-conspirator in this extremely premeditated plot, went directly to where the victim and his entourage had already gone. They had already pulled into the home to suites when Mr. Gathright was nowhere to be seen. Mr. Gathright immediately navigates that Impala around the north end of that hotel, passing all of those cars in that parking lot. Now what we see in these photographs is Mr. Gathright navigating that car and making sure to do a three-point turn so he doesn't reveal their presence in this car that they have hidden. If you go back to Truth 18, which I kind of skipped over, you remember Mr. Chance, the surveillance team. He gets out with Miss Andrews because they're just a young couple and they can get closer and make closer observation and give that intelligence to the strike team, the hit team. Mr. Gathright's driving the Impala. He parks across the street or right next to the strip mall where Truth 18 is. But as they're getting ready to leave and they're getting information that he must have been receiving, Mr. Gathright repositions across the street and pulls up to that stop sign. And one thing you may have seen in the evidence, he stops and then he creeps forward so that he can see around that corner and see the entourage and see the victim's car. You heard Detective Ramos.
This shit truly, it really is disturbing. They were hunting him. Some sick shit.
Detective who did this incredible job and sat on the stand as a true encyclopedia of this case, telling you it is his opinion they were getting ready to possibly try an assault or to follow. But he gets there and he's also now part of the surveillance and he's staging, waiting. Here in the hotel parking lot, he is taking the precautions. He goes down and then he turns the car around and comes back.
And the state kept saying that they were hunting him, and it's true. They were literally like the way they were searching for where he was. It's actually kind of scary because you got to think about how motivated they were to kill him. like just imagine you just living your normal life and there's people literally planning and plotting to take you out. And like I said earlier, though, Julio leaked his address because I think he was tired of running, tired of looking over his shoulder, not being able to go out. Like, think about it, he's quote unquote the number one op in Jacksonville. He can't enjoy his life. They said it was a bounty on his head from anywhere to 50,000 to 100,000. Like, you can't enjoy your life. So I think he was just tired. Yes, Scrapping Beauty. This litigator is excellent. He is a beast. He is much like the lady that was in the, I don't know if you all remember, the Henry Dinkins trial. You know what's funny? Black folks be in court listening to this and they be like, because I know black folks underestimate how good the police are and how much they can find out and how much they can piece things together. Then on top of that, these attorneys. So it's like it's like the police, the investigators, the ones doing the interrogations, and then the attorneys. Like you got to deal with 3 layers. And it's just like, yeah. That's why most of them plead out. But they'll tell you white people are slow and they ain't all this and this. You see, you realize the magnitude of white folks when you get into that courtroom. Because you see, the only reason that black folks are getting by in the courtroom is because the judges are woke and liberal. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. It's because of pressure from the quote unquote media and these advocacy groups and agencies and all that. Only because the threat of racism is looming around everything white people do is why they even having a chance in court. It's the only way. But let's continue.
Back without going around that corner and breaking a plane where they could be seen. He goes up around the corner. There he goes past the Tesla. They park. And then you have to think, there's no way they were driving around Tampa in June with hoodies and masks over their face for 4 hours.
Sean Rashad.
Get their hoodies on, pull these masks or gaiters or whatever they're using to cover their faces. Mr. Gathright has to retrieve that AR-15.
Look at the height difference between Sean and Rashad. They literally know who's under the mask based on height, based on the way they walk. Like they literally have them all. Like it's crazy. But you see them hopping out the car with the AR-15s provided by Sean Gathright.
And now he's handling it, and they're running, and they're acting as a team. These 3 individuals that are the assault team. And as I said, Rashad Murphy or Davion Murphy with his ski mask on, with only eye hole showing, with the 300 blackout, crouched down, making himself unobtrusive, trying to make sure that they conceal their presence, because this was all predicated and designed around an ambush. And you remember the state telling you in opening statements that they brought fire supremacy? That was part of the plan. That was part of this, to bring overwhelming firepower to this situation, because they weren't going to let Charles Jones get away. Not this time. Not this time. They were going to take him. He was not going back to Jacksonville. He was going to stay here in Tampa. So they bring 3 shooters with high-powered rifles and all of this firepower, no hesitation that they were sitting in front of a hotel with a packed parking lot. Mr. Gathwright's use of the Airbnb app and the VRBO app and that search alone, I'm going to come back to that in a few minutes.
That it really is one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence.
Is an overwhelming load of decision and problem solving, decision making. But think of all the decisions they had to make. Mr. Murphy had to try to coordinate Mr. Rashad Murphy to get that cruise. He had to talk to his sister or his brother's mother of his brother's children, and he had to coordinate with her because someone had to go get the car. Either he had to go pick it up or she had to bring it to him. Every one of these steps required multiple smaller steps and multiple decisions and problem solving. Well, can you drop it off? We'll drive you back. Or can I pick it up from you? And then he's got to get someone to drop him off. And we know he's driving it when he goes to the Walmart, and someone there is driving it, and they come and pick him up when he comes out of the Walmart the night before. That alone just shows another example of the problem solving, the decision making, and then the back and forth with Airbnb and booking the Airbnb and finding an Airbnb that just happens to be 2 miles from Teasers and ends up being almost 1.33 miles, just over a mile from the murder scene. But in that same area right there around Busch Gardens.
He ain't stuttering once, dude. I mean, look at this frame. I'm going to have to blur the gun, but that's Rashad with his gun right here. Glock switch pointing right at the windshield, and the windshield has its first impact.
Now we're seeing impacts to the driver's side, and you can see the glass spraying upwards from the impacts through that automobile windshield glass. And we know Camilla Bentley is in that car on the right, the Altima. She's already got her foot on the brake, and watch when her car starts to move. First impact, second impact. And we know she takes the 2 rounds to the back of that car. It is efficiency. This is overwhelming firepower. So Mr. Murphy, Rashad Murphy, has stuck his head around the corner and looked. And the way that he and Mr. Gathright coordinate, it's almost as if they did a countdown, like a 3, 2, 1 or something.
It is, because they both sprint around the corner at the exact same time. It's almost like they went 3, 2, 1, go. Like it is. He's not wrong.
And they take up their firing positions quickly, efficiently, which shows heightened premeditation. And they're acting immediately. Watch Mr. Gathright. He will not even be in a standing position before he's opening fire. He is running into his position and starting to fire when his feet are moving. That's how quickly they wanted to put rounds before anyone could react to them. He's already firing, still moving at that point. But look where he's pointing. He's pointing towards the Charger. And then you see his muzzle swing to the right. Right there. He's making an intentional decision to redirect his fire after he has put 2 rounds through the windshield of that Charger. And now he's redirecting to the Ultima, which they thought Tafa McRae was driving. A 6-block member. Look at the purposeful, intentional behavior of Mr. Gathright here before Mr. Murphy appears up here to Davion. This perfect coordinated attack. He gets hit runs into the tree, almost falls down, turns, continues to fire rounds into that car. Now they're both firing into it. Almost perfect timing. And now Mr. Gathright is still firing. And look at where he's firing. He's firing to the northwest towards that Charger. But just look at the tenacity. That is purpose-driven behavior. This was something that had been in their hearts and minds, the point I'm trying to make, for weeks, for days. To murder someone, to take someone's life. And you see this overwhelming firepower. There was no consideration for anyone else in that area. None whatsoever.
Imagine what he's thinking right now, bro. Someone compared him to Drake in the chat earlier, and I chuckled a little bit.
They hit some 6-block members. That's all the better. And anyone who else, and this is another thing. When they're coming out of teasers or Truth 18, Mr. Gathright sitting over there at the stop sign. He sees the size of that entourage. He sees how many people are involved. He knows how many people are in those cars. Mr. Doherty pointed this out to you. Look at the accuracy of those rounds into the headrests. Both headrests taking rounds. Sean Gathright shooting an AR-15 chambered in 5.56 NATO. What caliber were the 2 rounds pulled out of Charles Jones' body? Well, the 1 round, what was its caliber? It was a 22 caliber class, 5mm class, which 5.56 round they could not figure out the caliber. Ms. Drew couldn't, but she could tell you they had consistent rifling and they appeared to be from the same type of rifling.
So yeah, Sean was the one that actually shot and killed Foolio.
Mr. Gathright put 2 5.56 round NATO bullets into Charles Jones' body. We don't know about the other bullet to the chest. That could have been from Rashad Murphy, and it would make sense. Look at him crouching down, hurriedly getting into place, running behind those cars.
I'm laughing at the way he runs, bro. He is so unathletic.
Staying in his hiding place, you remember, in his area where he cannot be seen because he doesn't want to reveal that he's there, they may try to go somewhere else. They want them to go that direction.
So Sean Gathright, if you look, so basically they said one of the bullets that Sean shot went through the largest artery, and like basically he was going to die. Julio was not going to make it because one of the bullets went through his heart, his lung, like he was done. It was a done deal because the guy testified and said he was going to bleed out in a matter of seconds because it hit that big main artery or aorta or whatever they call it. I don't know, but you see that Sean Gathright is the one that's up on the car, point blank range, putting holes in it. So he shoots the 2, then shoots at the girl in the Ultima, then turns back and starts shooting him again. So again, remember, their mind is that he has some kind of voodoo spell over him protecting him. So this is why it's overkill. This is why it's so intensive, because they think that he has some voodoo spell, because Ace, leader of the other gang, when he was talking with him, he said, you voodoo, you voodoo. He said, man, I ain't voodoo. He said, you voodoo. So they think that he's protected by some kind of voodoo spell. Yeah, the aorta. Thank you, Bye Pie.
They want them to go into that area, and they don't want them to flee or have a chance to get away. Again, coming back, Mr. Murphy's tenacity, purpose-driven behavior. He's not giving up. He's not going to stop. And then quickly back to the car. Does that speak to you, someone who has a cognitive impairment? Rashad Murphy running back to the car. The image on the right, if you look at the direction of his head, he's looking towards the fleeing car. His direction is towards Charles Jones' Charger. And you can see in this image, he's now moved slightly forward, and he's still looking in that direction. They finally get back to Jacksonville the next day. And for the first time in all the evidence, the ghost is revealed. Rashad Murphy, in person, showing up.
He fucked up so bad getting in this Uber and getting on camera here, because if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't be on camera anywhere without his face showing. Oh, wait, never mind, Walmart.
So the guy called Ghost, Rashad Murphy. Rashad Murphy was only on camera twice, at Walmart and at Gathride's house. He could have avoided both of them. He didn't have to go inside Walmart. And I think they may have gone inside the Walmart to get, I forgot why they went inside the Walmart. Either they went inside the Walmart to the McDonald's, I don't know, but they went inside he went inside the Walmart. He didn't have to go inside the Walmart. And he got on camera at this house. He didn't do that either. So there's two, if he had avoided these two places, he was nowhere, which is why he calls himself Ghost. If he wasn't on camera these two times, he would have actually gotten off because he's nowhere. Like it'd be very difficult to put him in this if you don't have him anywhere on camera. Now you can assume that he was one of the shooters, but if you don't really have him on the camera going back to the house or at the Walmart, how do you connect him to that third shooter? I don't know, but yeah, he called himself Ghost, but they ended up figuring out that he was Ghost, but they figured out that he was Ghost in a roundabout way, not really in a concrete way, but just in a roundabout way, I think, if I can remember. It's a lot of information in this court case. The guy with the glasses, his channel is called Cuff Boys. I think his name is Cam Holler. I'm pulling this video from his page. You guys should go follow him. Actually, please do.
On camera in Walmart with the same outfit. This guy, they're so stupid.
Yeah. Rashad Murphy had the same outfit on in Walmart as he did at the shooting. So again, had he not been at that Walmart camera and not been on this camera, it would have been very hard to put him in Tampa because he didn't have his phone. So there's nothing actually linking him to being in Tampa. He wasn't on the Airbnb rain cam. He wasn't on any cameras except this one and Walmart.
Murphy, who tried to protect the conspiracy 17 days before when Isaiah Chance was talking to the victim and arguing with him, trying to get him to stop. You don't want to give us up. You don't want them to know what we're up to. You don't want to give them advance notice that something might happen. The Ghost, who never appears on the ring camera at the Airbnb in Tampa. That takes thoughtful, deliberate action in and of itself. None of these defendants appear on that ring camera on the 22nd when they get there. They're going in and out of that Airbnb, as Miss Doherty told you, all through that evening. Chance and Gathright are going down to case the teasers earlier in the evening. They're leaving to go. Chance is going with his girlfriend and Mr. Davion Murphy up to the McDonald's to get food, and they never appear until after everything is done. Before I move away from the cold, calculated, premeditated, I want to move back to Isaiah Chance and just kind of cover some of his involvement in this case. We talked about this. He's the one that actually pays through J. Breezy's contributions for the Airbnb. He provides the Glock with the extended magazine that is utilized by Rashad Murphy in the attack. He helps load the Impala. Now we see the photographs of him on the left. That teaser's on the right at Truth 18 with Miss Andrews providing the essential, critical, on-the-ground, real-time intelligence and reconnaissance back to the assault team.
I can't explain how lucky Alicia got. She knew what was up. I don't know how people think otherwise. She takes a trip with an assault team and tracks someone around in a car with her boyfriend who has a hoodie and a mask on. She has a mask on. They don't go in any clubs. She knew what was up, bro. She got so lucky only getting 10 or 15 years. Well, she hasn't been sentenced yet, and she might get another trial for manslaughter, but...
Right, would have been able to find where the victim went. Unless he was right on their tail revealing himself, the only way he knew to do it was because Mr. Chance told him. And when they needed him to come in for last-second reconnaissance, remember how fast after he had staged across the street at the Embassy Suites area at USF, he comes flying back across Fowler, blows that red light, and pulls right in and drives right past the victim in the car that they all know is not going to be recognized. That's why Mr. Rashad Murphy had to solve that problem and go get that car. And now Mr. Chance is providing last second intelligence to the assault team. So he drives in, drives past, goes around the corner, encounters the Impala, goes right past it, does that three-point turn, and then he comes back. That didn't happen for no reason. That was a coordinated effort. And without Mr. Chance's information and intelligence to them, they wouldn't have known for a fact where Charles Jones was sitting. If you look at the passenger side of that Charger, you can see Mr. Jones' red and white socks sitting up there on the dashboard, moving back and forth. When you're considering Mr. Chance and Mr. Gathright, you need to consider their contributions to this murder and their role they played in this murder. Without these two defendants, this never, ever would have happened. It never would have happened. Without Mr. Chance providing that real-time intelligence, they would not have been able to track Charles Jones. They would not have been able to orchestrate this attack. Mr. Gathright, we know that the attack, this whole thing that day starts where? It starts at the Gathright household. in the Gathright household out in the suburbs in Jacksonville, we see this extremely confident defendant, Mr. Gathright, loaded for bear, loading up his car as if they're going on a vacation, just as casual as could be without a care. He and Mr. Chance are discussing how they're going to load it, where they're going to put the items, more problem solving, more decision making, back and forth. And of course, we know from the evidence from the search warrant that was conducted at the Gathright residence that Mr. Gathright was the armorer of this assault team. He provided the armament that was utilized, this weapon being utilized by Davion Murphy, that rifle being utilized by Mr. Gathright. And you heard in the evidence from the very compelling testimony of Officer De Jesus that that rifle was being utilized with a high level of skill, the sling that was attached to it being utilized to stabilize the rifle, and we saw its effect. 2 rounds right next to each other, and Charles Jones back, fired by this 18-year-old at the time defendant. Right.
So they were talking about also how good of a shot, and this is why you saw Sean Gathright being able to run and shoot the. Think about what I'm telling you. He's 18 now. Davion Murphy was in the back shooting, but he was shooting like out of control. Matter of fact, he was shooting so reckless he almost hit Sean Gathright and Rashad Mosley. He almost hit them because he's shooting reckless. But Sean Gathright, I know he went to the shooting range because he was able to fire accurate shots. You see, he shot in the head, he was shooting the headrest. So he's doing headshots from a distance inside a car. He's able to run and shoot at the same time. So this guy, we can assume he is a trained shooter because, again, he has access to shooting ranges, gun ranges. He's in Florida. Like I said, kid, spoiled. So him having guns isn't a big deal. Going to the range isn't a big deal. And so, yes, Corey, his father's in the Air Force or was in the Air Force. When he was stay with his father in California. We're going to get to all of this. But my point is that out of everybody that's actually street, he's actually the most trained criminal. Ironically, the one that didn't grow up in the streets was actually the most dangerous of them all because he had the training with the weapon. He had the brains to problem solve and plan and plot. He had all of the skills to be a successful what you call assassin. Keep in mind, he had already gotten off on 3 previous shootings. So, you know, I'm just telling you, he's just.
Through the windshield, and then the 2 well-placed parallel rounds right through the back window. Back in October of 23, in the first attack on Charles Jones, they were able to match shell casings from that scene to the shell casings found when these officers stopped Mr. Gathright. Those shell casings. And of course, Mr. Gathright provided ammunition as well as the rifles. So I want to talk to you about this. I don't have audio on this, but I just want you to watch for a few minutes what is occurring in this screen-recorded video on his iCloud.
Showing the jury
Look
this
at that
again.
Time, 8:30. That's a work day before the murder happens. That's 8 hours before the murder happens. And we know that this defendant, look at the problem solving right there in real time in that evidence, the decision-making going on from, as Raul Benasco told us, a very mature defendant who can take care of himself. Look at him going through. And then we're going to see him start using the multiple filters. A property on the water, a property with this many rooms, a property that has a pool, a property with a barbecue, trying to figure this out. This evidence in and of itself is overwhelming premeditation.
This is the evidence right here, this type of shit that could get him the death penalty because he truly was hunting and trying to figure out his location 8 hours before the murder.
And it goes on. You remember in the trial when we played this for you, this goes on for minutes and minutes and minutes of tenacious, goal-oriented, purpose-driven behavior by this defendant. And what was the whole purpose of this? Was he looking for an Airbnb? Was he looking to rent a property? Was he doing anything of any kind of productivity? No. He's trying to find their prey. He's trying to find Charles Jones, their target.
I still understand why he screen recorded this. And he got rid of his phone after. Did he think it didn't get backed up? Like he had backup to iCloud and didn't know it because that's how they found this. They never found any phones. Well, they found Rashad's, but not Sean's.
Trying to find him, actively trying to find him. That phone's not moving itself. That's his fingers doing that. When you're considering the weight of this aggravating factor, and you're comparing it and weighing it against a significant mitigator that he was 18, this is what you need to look at. When you're assessing the value and quality, that this was a cold, calculated, and premeditated murder. And remember, your considerations are to each individual defendant as far as their sentence. It's an individual sentence. But because this is conspiracy, because they acted as a team, a lot of this evidence, you got to look at it as a whole. You got to look at it as a whole. Every one of them. This cold, calculated, premeditated aggravator applies to each of them. This alone, this is enough premeditation to convict 1,000 people of first-degree premeditated murder.
To convict 1,000 people.
Now he's going to utilize a technique, a honeypot. He's going to use a honeypot technique, if you've ever heard of that term. A honeypot, a lure. He's going to try to lure and get that information by luring it out of someone, by using this pretty young girl, Kyla, who unbelievably goes along with this. I need you to text Fat Boy. We never know who Fat Boy is. It's probably Xavier Edwards. As I need you to text Fat Boy, telling you trying to pull up about trying to see him tonight. You know I'm gone. I've been FaceTiming him while I'm out. She doesn't really understand at first. He in Tampa right now. Make it seem like you know he's there. He had a B&B with 6. Be like, what's WYA? Where are you at? I want to pull up. I'm drunk and trying to F. Never mind. Then she says, we at Tier the club, because she's not following. You want to come to the B&B with us? Question mark, because she's not understanding. No, I'm in Tampa. I'm trying to see where his B&B at. Who B&B? 6. Fools. It's his B-day in Fat Boy with him. Not here in Jacksonville. No, they in Tampa. What? She still doesn't understand, but that doesn't stop him. He persists. Play like you know it. Fat Boy going to Beezer's tonight or some shit like that. Clearly, this defendant was persistent that night and tenacious in his attempts to locate Charles Jones.
The Chuck.
And then we know that in addition to all of this effort and involvement in this case, because folks, the evidence in this case shows there is no defendant sitting over here. There is no defendant in this case who did more to orchestrate this murder than Mr. Gathright. They may be as involved in him, but nobody exceeds his culpability in this murder. He adds and provides the car for the assault team, the Impala. He drives all the way down there and takes the entire intelligence and surveillance team with him. We talked about this, how he drove around the parking lot, how he maneuvered and kept the assault team from being detected. That's on that defendant's shoulders in this cold, calculated, premeditated murder. And where does this whole thing end? Back at the Gathright residence in the suburbs in Jacksonville. Now, he's not there.
This boy took his mother's car. And you know what? It dawned on me today why he took his mother's car. Because during the sentencing phase where they have, family members come up and be, character witnesses, speak on these defendants' behalves, she got on that stand and she lied. The judge had to excuse the jury because his mom got up there and said, the person in that video is not my son. So the reason why he took his mother's car is because he knew his mother would lie for him. The reason why he took his mother's car is because he knew that his mother would lie for him. Otherwise, why would he take his mother's car? So the alibi would have been, she would have said, I went to Tampa.
No, this defendant's not there.
Now keep in mind, when it came to the white dad, he was out in California with his white dad, but his dad was like strict, rules. You ain't running nothing. Dad, ex-Air Force. Dad is white. So, your dad's the white man. So you can't respect him. You can't listen to him. Dad was like, no. Then he ends up running away to a park and his mom said, you can come back home. And so it was just foolishness, utter foolishness. So the mom, you can come back home to kill somebody. Come back home to be a shooter. If he would have stayed with his dad, he would have been alive. His body would have been something.
Over in Auburndale in Polk County, dropping the Impala off with his unsuspecting grandmother, leaving it with his grandmother, and then driving off in her 4Runner, now loaded with all of that ammunition and all that other evidence. This evidence alone and this aggravating factor alone, if we had no other aggravating factor, would justify a sentence of death for each one of these defendants. Standing alone, it would justify a sentence of death. Because this is a boatload of premeditation. This is, like I said, it's enough premeditation to convict thousands of men. There could have been 40 people participating that each had just a little chunk of this 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks of premeditation. And they all could have been convicted as principals, the first-degree murder.
There's a reason why this guy is the death penalty specialist, dude. These guys all might get the death penalty. That's the way I'm thinking right now. Holy shit.
And this evidence, as you saw,
I thought there was a chance for Isaiah because he's not a trigger man, but he's making me think he could get it right now.
at trial, because we kept bringing it, didn't we? all the way up to the end, all the way up to the end. More and more and more evidence, more and more evidence. In football, it's called piling on. And when we have the burden of proof, which we should have the burden of proof, because we're the government and we are here asking you to convict them of something, then we need to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. But like I told you in my opening statements, we're going to prove this to you beyond any doubt. There's zero doubt in this case that they committed premeditated murder. And I'm very confident that every one of you found that when you went back there to deliberate. This aggravating factor, it stands on a substantial volume of premeditation, of evidence of premeditation, of heightened premeditation. This aggravating circumstance alone justifies a sentence of death. This aggravating factor alone in its evil and its wicked nature outweighs any of the suggested mitigation for any of these defendants.
Now, I want to pause for a second, give you the ages again. So Rashad Murphy is 32. Then that means that, or I thought Davion was 32, but it said I think Davion's 29. So Davion's 29, Rashad Murphy's 32. So that means Rashad Murphy was 30 years old. Rashad Murphy was 30 when this happened. Davion was 27. Isaiah was 20, or maybe about to be 21. And Sean Gathright was 18. So I want you to understand that there was a guy that was 30 years old following an 18-year-old. And he's the same guy that was trying to tell him to keep calm and don't follow the plan. So I just want to let you know there was a 30-year-old man following Sean Gathright, but they all share the same kind of brain, though. When I talk about black men suffering from arrested development.
Inspired, they premeditated as a team, and it applies to each one of them. This aggravator that either Rashad Murphy or Sean Gathright or Davion Murphy was contemporaneously convicted of a felony involving the use or threat of violence to another person. You can take out the previously part. That's another way of proving that. They were convicted of a contemporaneous violent felony. When you all came back here with that just verdict, finding them, these three defendants, guilty each of 3 counts, not 1, but 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder. And that's exactly what they did. Attempted second-degree murder. That is an aggravating factor that I've kind of broached and talked about a little bit already. They weren't going to just kill Charles Jones. He was the target, no doubt about it. But if there was someone else there, 6 block, they were going to kill him. Victim, Gino Norris, 22 years old, not a 6 block member, but a lifetime friend or a lifelong friend of Charles Jones since they were in middle school. He was there to celebrate with Charles. This young man that you saw come in here, this man who talked in low tones, in a subdued voice. And you saw the evidence when they went up the stairs at Truth 18, he kind of paused and leaned on the banister and waited for everyone else. He was there because he was Charles Jones' friend, not because he was a member of 6 block. But that didn't stop him from catching a round in his arm. Xavier Edwards, the driver of the car, who is a 6 block member, 19 years old at the time, he took multiple rounds into his shoulder. He had grazing wounds on his hands, probably because his hands were up where all of the glass was shattering on the steering wheel. This young man most likely saved not only himself, but Gino Norris's life by pressing down on that accelerator and driving through that massive wall of fire in that vortex between Davion Murphy and Sean Gathright.
As people try to suggest he could have popped a U-turn, I think a U-turn would have been worse because it takes like time. I don't know, bro. He had nowhere to go. Like he could have popped a U-turn, but that probably could have given Sean a better angle. I don't know.
Look at their faces. Look at that.
Look at them. Look at them. And it's crazy because the 19-year-old at the time, when he's got interviewed, he blames himself because he says he should have been able to drive off. Like he literally blames himself for Foolio getting killed. But you can see these guys are shot. And again, understand that these 2 guys got shot. A guy's wife in the hotel got shot, and the young lady that was in the car pulling off, she got shot. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 other people got shot. And Sean Gathright was responsible for, I want to say all of them, all the other people getting shot too, because he's so accurate.
That is from a body-worn camera. That's not a pose. That's in the middle of what's occurring. That's a screenshot from a body-worn camera. Look at the stunned look on Gino's face and look at the expression on Xavier Edwards. We heard testimony this week about this was a traumatic event. Remember that coming out of Mr. Gathwright's mouth? That's trauma right there. That evidence. That's real trauma being reflected in real time as it's being suffered.
Yeah, Sean saying it was traumatic experience. Come on, brother. That was crazy.
These men still having projectiles in their bodies. Look at the placement of those rounds from Mr. Gathwright's rifle, because there's no doubt he's the one that fired those. The one on the right went out the windshield. The one on the left went through this young lady's right arm.
Do you see the accuracy of the shots? Do you see the accuracy of the shots? These are kill. He's trying to aim high. These are kill shots. This young lady got shot in the arm. Nothing to do with it. Again, it was packed in front of the hotel. Think about it, it's the weekend. It's the summertime in Tampa. People going on vacation, people visiting. So the hotel is packed. And they just fire and shooting.
Camilla Bentley, 22 years old, completely unrelated to anyone in this case. We have 3 attempted murders in this case, only by the grace of God.
It's really insane that many people survived. I mean, if you look at the windshield of Foolio's car, I don't know how the driver survived. More heavy set, like he's a big target, bro.
Shot and killed Charles Jones and then attempted to murder these other people who were in the cars, Camilla, Gino, and Xavier Edwards. That is an aggravating factor. That is a violent felony offense that you have convicted them of. And that is an aggravating factor. And there is absolutely zero doubt about it. It's been proven in your verdicts. Your verdicts, you've already found that this aggravator exists beyond a reasonable doubt. When you add it and its weighted significance to the heightened premeditation in this case, there's no comparison. It blocks out the mitigation that's been presented to you for those 3 defendants. If one of these defendants who was a gang member, let's just take Mr. Chance, just as an example. If he had got into a fight with his girlfriend or found out something about her that he was upset about, and he went out to his car and retrieved the gun and he loaded it, and he walked around the block and he cooled off and he came back and decided he was going to kill her anyways, and he went and murdered her, that would be premeditated murder, and that would be an aggravating factor because he's a gang member. But in that instance, the gang membership would have nothing to do with that murder. It'd be unrelated to that murder, and it'd still be an aggravating factor. But here, this is the heart of this murder. It's the heart of this plot, this plan. All 4 of these defendants share the same motive, to take out Charles Jones because he is in the opposition. Mr. Gathwright, we don't have this aggravator against him, but he clearly has allegiances and associations.
They never charged Sean with being a gang member.
But it is not an aggravator against him. You cannot consider it as such.
So Gathwright wasn't actually, it wasn't confirmed that he was in the gang. But he used to be a cameraman for the rappers doing their videos. So he started out as a videographer, then he became a hitman. But this is what happens when you want to be a part of the culture. Because if you want to be a part of Black culture, it's not going to be good. I'm sorry. If somebody says, I want to be a part of Black culture, it's not going to be a good thing. Because when they're saying they want to be a part of Black culture, they're not saying they want to be a Black doctor or a Black lawyer. That's not what they're saying. I want to be a Black scientist. That's not what they're saying. They're saying, I want to be a part of all the foolishness. So this young man threw his life away. I'm going to stop right here, but I'm going to come back tomorrow to finish this out and then start on the actual individuals. Mainly, I'll be focusing on Sean Gathwright and what a tragic tale he is. But the defense did the prosecution did an excellent job. I mean, I'm talking about so thorough and meticulous. Well, what's crazy is that the one guy that was 22 was an actual friend of his who wasn't a gang member, but then he said that the other young man was a 6 block member. So the heavyset guy was a 6 block member, but the other guy wasn't. So again, I just think that Julio was tired. He gave his location. He was tired. He just was tired of looking over his shoulder, tired of running, saying this is going to never end. I'm not going to be able to have a normal life. And he even said in one interview, he said, I'm going to play some interviews. He said, I don't have to be in Jacksonville. He said, I don't have to be here. I choose to be here. So again, Julio, some folks have a death wish. I don't know. But anybody got any questions? This is going to be part 1. And I'm going to do part 2 tomorrow. But it's just a horrible case. But I really want to focus in on Sean Gathwright because he literally should have never been involved in any of this. Like, I mean, there's no part of his life that had any elements with the street. None. There he had no link or tie to the street. None of it. Nothing. Even Isaiah Chance had a good life. Rashad and Davion Murphy was a little more troubled, but wasn't necessarily that bad. But Sean Gathright had no ties to the streets, no ties to gangs, he had no ties to none of it. And he was literally the worst one. He was actually the worst one. But listen, y'all, I love y'all. And I want y'all to take care. And I will see you all tomorrow. Thank y'all.